regardless of which newspaper or which television channel or which media organization one is working for, and therefore whatever I can do to help, I would be more than welcome. So it's been a number of years now at these surveys which have been happening for a number of years. In the initial days, of course, our hope was that with each passing year there would be improvements, and all through these years, from the centre, from all the political parties and all the governments and all the oppositions, there hasn't been the kind of improvement that we were hoping for. As Bela will go over the results today, there is partial improvement. So if there's any good news, it's that we're not regressing. But the improvements in terms of the magnitude that one would have hoped for is not there. And of course, you will hear the details in a bit. So therefore, I think it is yet again a wake-up call. And I say yet again because every year it is a wake-up call. Allow me to say yet again that these results. But unfortunately, the kind of emergency that we're looking at education is not the one that the governments have been promising. And therefore, I feel a little sad in saying that what should have been our priority, an argument that education is not priority number one. Based on this, I think, I hope that the government of the day, and very seriously, include them in their planning. I would hope that we would have better numbers and better news and better morale for all of us.
As some of you may already know, this year marks the 9th edition of the Annual Status of Education Report. It has been conducted in Pakistan. It covers 155.
जो आप सुनेंगे, the whole concept of this work on citizen accountability for learning is, and the heart of it, which makes us all throb, is how do we go from assessment to action? So with that as our key message, and as you came in, you must have seen our campaigns which are outside, the work we are doing, the Alif Se Udan campaign, girls can fly as high as they can go, and the accelerated program for girls' education. I think it's very important to see what can be done. Because I think if at the end of it, you're just taking bad news home, that's not good enough. We would like to have you all take resolve for actions, and actions will make a difference, and actions that can be counted, and we can see a happier Pakistan. And that's really the passion with which all of us do Asar. There are 10,000 of us who do Asar, and they are all over the country, and 33 partners. This is not an undertaking by one institution. This is truly a collective campaign for action. But without evidence, we cannot really do meaningful actions. And here we go. So what are the results? Can we begin, please? So be a bit patient. We do want to say that 2019 is an important year. After all, we are now entered the last 10 years of the Sustainable Development Goals. We are committed to the fact that in 2010, we had Article 25A saying that this has now become a fundamental right for all children 5 to 16 years of age as may be determined by law. And we have 5 legal provisions in place. Center of the Sustainable Development Goal 4. Because it's learning that makes education tick. Without learning, we may be in school, but it may be of little value when we are not learning. But I think it is important again to remind ourselves, we cover 3 to 16 years of age. We look at the quality of education through our learning assessment in urban and rural areas, and that goes for 5 to 16 years. This is an important document that addresses the pillars of access, equity, and inclusion. And we are here because we do get the ASA data and results benchmarked and influencing the national and provincial policy, and now the sector plans, as well as how we track right to education or Pachi Se. So I think it is also important to take a little bit of credit because we do this kind of assessment in 13 to 14 countries of the world, all South countries from Latin America to Africa to Asia, and we have influenced how we are looking at the goal of SDG 4, how we're looking at the targets and what the definition of the indicators are. And I'm very pleased to say that the definitions of the indicators today have reached category 1 rather than a classification 3, which was when we started in 2010, we did not know how to measure this particular target. So I think ये ना समझें कि हम जो काम कर रहे हैं वो पता नहीं किस लिए कर रहे हैं, इसके बहुत ही बड़े इम्पैक्ट हैं. अगर मिनिस्ट्री समझती है या डिपार्टमेंट्स की हमें समझ नहीं आ रही कि कैसे डिफाइन करें लर्निंग को, तो हमारे पास ये सारी इंफॉर्मेशन मौजूद है. और नवंबर में ये इंडिकेटर भी अपग्रेड हो गया जो कि लोअर प्राइमरी का है. और मैं ये भी अच्छी बात बताती चलूं कि हमारे पास we have a new assessment tool which will be scaled up. We've tested it very well. It's happened also in 13 countries. And where we are looking at numeracy tool, which is now totally on the same wavelength as any country in the world and can be comparable as we measure it, whether it's Pakistan or anywhere, we cannot say, oh, Pakistan ke liye kuch farak hai. It will be the same definition, the same competencies. So I'm very pleased that we'll be able to do that. Next, please. Again, reminding, ASAR assessment tool is for reading and Urdu, Pashto and Sindhi, arithmetic and English, general knowledge. All of this is pitched to grade 2 level curriculum, textbooks and competencies. I think it's important to add, इस बार हमें सारे assessment bodies, क्योंकि हम जब tool बनाते हैं, तो assessment bodies को we take on board, the government ones especially, और उन्होंने कहा कि 3 digit को भी add कर दीजिए और word problem को भी कर दीजिए, तो वो भी इसका हिस्सा है. और असर के tools में हमारे पास household tools भी हैं और school level tools भी हैं. तो data जो आपको नजर आएगा वो इन तमाम tools से है. Next, please. So the scale and scope of ASAR, this is rural. 255,266 children, 92,000 plus households, 6,000 plus schools, 155 rural districts, 4,500 plus villages. And that scale, and I remember here, there was a wonderful person sitting here, a transgender, and she said to me, why the hell are you not including us last year? So we did, and we did find 329 in our results. And actually it's not there, but it will be for you, and we will be tweeting it, that the transgenders have actually got much better learning levels than general. So it's very exciting, but I'm very happy that we become inclusive. And this year we also did the tech-based assessment on Android. We piloted in 9 districts. It was super, and we've got outside one table where 2 of our ASAR lead people are sitting with the Android, so you can test, and some of people have also tested in how to do it. That makes it even more transparent, more efficient, more paperless. So the findings. The findings reveal that for early years, and this is a concern, that when we look at last year, we see 37% enrollment in early years, 3 to 5, which have increased to 39, but if you look at a 5-year trajectory, we're still hovering about the same place. And it seems that the foundational learning, we have not really been serious about. Somewhere we track them also. We would spend less than 1% of our development budget on early years. That won't do. And you'll see why it won't do in a minute. We look at also the 6 to 16 years age. We see 83% as our enrollment. And in that we see that 77% is attributable, the children are enrolled in government schools, and 33% in private, which includes madrasa, non-formal, all other forms of service delivery. Next, please. And if we look at who are the top winners in terms of, we have Azad Jammu Kashmir, 97%. We have Punjab at 91%, Gilgit-Baltistan at 93%, Assam Capital Territory, this is rural, 91%, and so on. So at least there is a kind of a ranking. You can see what's happening, where we need to work more. Next, please. And of course, let's not forget that whenever you have the challenge of out of school children, gender gaps persist. And it's no different from the government's own findings that there are gender gaps. When you have 22.6% million children out of school, your gender gaps are there and they're persisting, and hence the hashtags of leave no girls behind, hashtag of girls learn, women earn, because this is a very big challenge for us. It gets translated when you have only 26% women who are in the labor force, and that's not good enough if that's all that we see, because the foundation is not strong. Next, please. course, this is very interesting.
As a fundamental right was critical in 2010, but the challenge, I would say, had just started then, and it's been only 10 years, so we have long roads to cover still. It is also good to know that we have moved on to improve in learning at grade 5 levels, or our facilities have improved. And because of that, more children in the rural areas get enrolled in government schools, whether we call it, whether we look at it on the accessibility or the outreach, reaching out to those schools and children who are in the remotest part of this country. Or if we look into the quality environment when we talk about it, on repairing school facilities or even providing those missing facilities to the schools. I remember in the ESR action plan in 2001-2005 when I was Minister of Education, this was one of the biggest initiatives that we had put in place. And as we see, it's nearly 19 years later. That is the kind of patience, Fahad, sometimes we need with government when we work. Change doesn't happen overnight, it's gradual. And the tangible results to be seen take long. But then we should always be hopeful, optimistic. We are slow, governments may be slow, but we see because of those initiatives today, we see the numbers growing. If it hadn't been then, I don't think, and the way the successor governments took it up positively, we are seeing much better results today compared to 11 to, I would say, 18 years back. But this too needs to be mainstream now in schools. Bela mentioned, specifically when we talk of school-based packages and budgets, involving and bringing the missing facilities budgets not as, I would say, project mode, but into more of a program and sustainable part and parcel of the budgetary allocation itself. It's very important that we facilitate or provide that technical assistance to provinces as to how is it possible to make it part and parcel of their annual budget as they grow. To make that part of the recurrent funds that we talk about that can sustain these quality schools. But again, I would say congratulations to all and to all the governments for pushing these for missing facilities and presence of teachers through tech-enabled monitoring. Now we are in a different age. Technology is something that each and every person, whether literate or not, knows how to use. Even children, as we see, babies in our homes, as soon as they're born, they're not even a year old, and they know how to start using your mobile and finding, the apps that they want to use. So that's the reality now. My 3 critical recommendations would be to this forum is girls' education at all levels, at all costs, no compromise. We cannot afford to persist with the gender gaps that we see when we have all the evidence in the world and in Pakistan to see the impact of girls' education for intergenerational development. My own journey of nearly 38 years have proved the difference that girls' education can do within homes, within the societies and communities that they live in. Whether we have the infrastructure or not, but the attitudes and mindsets that change because of girls' education is, I think, phenomenal. We have research that also prove it. I would not want to, sort of emphasize on that, but yes, girls learn and women earn in addition to the earning, but the kind of sort of social responsibilities that come on women, and specifically in Pakistan, with education, they are much more empowered to handle it all. It is time to end the invisibility and I would say informality of women, backed by the right education and laws. It's very important. It is time to take the Asr data and link it to Ehsas, and also solutions being tried by ITA and others on the adolescent girls. Alif Se Udan is a great campaign to let us know that girls can do anything, but they need more post-primary facilities, security, and also care. Bela sent me a wonderful pic today, but I've been seeing it all through in the last 2 weeks on these girls in my district in Kech, from one of those really sort of no-go areas, I would say. And these are these 4 or 5 young girls on the road, which is sort of, I wouldn't actually say a road, but a, sort of a track. And they're on this scooter going to school. So it just shows that a little bit of care and a little bit of support, what girls can do. So they're not waiting for schools to come to their homes or waiting for a bus to actually come, but taking their own initiatives and moving forward. We would have never believed this if we hadn't seen it there happening in Balochistan. So I'm thrilled to see that Asr is tracking children with disabilities also, one of our most important parts of our society. And also tools are becoming friendly to the hearing and visual impaired. We need to address the needs of children with disabilities. After being Minister for Education for 5 years, I was then Minister for Social Welfare and Special Education, and we came out with the first National Plan of Action, where we had started talking about inclusive education. In many schools at the government level, some parts we have seen that happening, but it's not happening as Fahad said, as we would want to see it. So that's another area where I feel partners should facilitate, and whether we are talking about the plans or the support systems being put into place to bring all children, including transgenders, which I would like to thank the government for at least counting them in. My last recommendation, and I'd leave this for the panel to be discussing for, is we should begin very young for foundational learning, so that early childhood education is truly a good preparation for social, emotional, and cognitive learning. We've seen the results. We've seen on ground the difference it makes, but I think much more needs to happen and much more needs to be done. So I leave it for the panel to further discuss on these.
2 सवाल हैं आपके लिए।
Yeah.
पहली बात तो ये, आप मिनिस्टर ऑफ एजुकेशन से 2025 है, मिनिस्टर फॉर डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन क्यों आपको लगा है? I mean that goes to show, I mean why, right person, right for the right job, why are you minister for defense production? एक सवाल तो मेरा ये। दूसरा ये कि अभी आपने ये सारे देखे, you've been tracking education for so long. I'm sure you.
वो बहुत बड़ा एजुकेशनिस्ट हो, अगर वो कमिटेड ना हो तो नहीं होता है। और आपके पास टीम होनी चाहिए। आप टीम की सिलेक्शन को बेहतर तरीके से आपको टीम की सिलेक्शन होनी चाहिए कि आप पॉलिसीज़ को कैसे आप ड्राफ्ट करते हैं और उसको कैसे आप इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं। तो सबसे अहम बात ये है कि आप पॉलिसीज़ को डिफ़ाइन करें, उसको ट्रांसपेरेंटली ले आएँ सामने, इसके बाद आप इसके ऊपर काम करें। मसलन हमारे 3-4 साल पहले इस नक्शे पे गिलगित बल्तिस्तान का नाम नहीं था। आज हम कश्मीर के बाद, कश्मीर टॉप पे है, इसके बाद गिलगित बल्तिस्तान है। तो इसकी बुनियादी वजह ये है जी कि आपके पास कमिटमेंट हो और आप अपने पॉलिसीज़ को, एक्शंस को आप इंश्योर करें, तो कोई वजह नहीं है ना हो। मैं आपको बताऊं, सबसे ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम हमें बच्चों के इनरोलमेंट का हमारे ख़ास तौर पर दियामर में होता था, ज़िले दियामर में। लेकिन हमने वहाँ पर मुख्तलिफ़ हवाले से हमने उस جو کنسٹرینٹ تھا اس کو ہم نے توڑا. کس طریقے سے کہ وہاں ہم نے وہ ہوم سکول کھولا, مسجد سکول کھولا بچوں کے لیے. تو دھیرے دھیرے سے اب بچوں نے تعلیم حاصل کرنا شروع کیا. ان کی پرائمری مڈل پہ آنے کے بعد انہوں نے مڈل ہائی اسکول کی ڈیمانڈ کیا, ان کے والدین کو انفلوئنس کیا. تو اس طریقے سے اسے ایک ضلع میں 2018 میں ہمارے 10,000 بچے انرولڈ ہوئے, اور 2019 میں ہمارے تقریباً 13,000 بچے انرولڈ ہوئے ایک ضلع سے. تو اس میں آپ کو کمٹمنٹ ہے. ایک دوسری بات یہ ہے جی, آپ کی پالیسیز بناتے وقت آئی ایم تھینکفل ٹو دی اثر کہ انہوں نے ہمیں گزشتہ 4-5 سالوں سے متواتر سالانہ رپورٹ پیش کر رہے ہیں. ان کے ڈیٹا کو ہم استعمال کر رہے ہیں, اور اس ڈیٹا سے ہمیں پتہ چلتا ہے. اور آپ اس پورے بک کے اندر دیکھیں گے تو آپ کو ضلع ٹو ضلع بھی کمپریزن آپ کو نظر آئے گا, جنڈر بھی آپ کو نظر آئے گا. تو یہ ساری چیزیں ڈیٹا جب آپ کے سامنے آتے ہیں تو آپ ان ڈیٹاز کے اوپر آپ اپنے جو آپ کے پروگرام ہے, آپ کے پروجیکٹس ہیں, ان کے اوپر ڈیزائن کریں اور پھر اس کو آگے بڑھا لیں تو یہ آگے نکل جاتا. اور کچھ چیزوں کے اوپر آپ کو پین لینا پڑے گا. مثلا ہمارے ٹیچر ریکروٹمنٹ, اب ہم نے کیا کہ یہ ہائی اسکولوں میں مڈل اسکولس کے جو ہمارے ہیڈ ٹیچر ہیں وہ ہم یہ فیڈرل پبلک سروس کمیشن سے اپوائنٹ کر کے لے آتے ہیں. وہاں نارملی جو پروموٹ ہوتے ہیں ان کو ہم ہیڈ ٹیچر نہیں بناتے ہیں جب تک وہ کسی کرائٹیریا سے گزر کر نہ آئے. اسی طریقے سے ہم نے ٹیچرز کو ٹیچر لائسنسنگ کہ جو ہمارے ایکٹ آف پارلیمنٹ بنا اس کے تھرو ہم نے گزارنے کی کوشش کی. اور ایک اور اہم بات یہ جی, جو ابھی آپ نے غریب اور امیر کی بات کی, اس ڈیٹا کے اندر ایک تو بچوں کے لیے ان کی وردی کا ایشو ہے, کتابوں کے ایشو ہے. تو یہ ہم نے فرسٹ ٹائم گلگت بلتستان میں ہم نے انشور کیا کہ سرکاری اسکولوں میں بچیوں کو, امیر یا غریب سب کو اکراس دی بورڈ ہم نے ان کو کتابیں دی, ان کو فیسلٹیز دیا. اور ساتھ ہی ہم نے یہ کوشش کی, شاید اسلام آباد میں انٹروڈیوس نہ ہو, ہم نے ای لرننگ ڈسٹینس لرننگ کو ہم نے شروع کیا ہمارے پرائمری اور ہائی اسکول تک. اور خاص طور پر ہم یہ 4 سالوں میں ہم نے جو ای سی ڈیز کو ہم نے فوکس کیا کہ ہر ہمارے اسکول میں ای سی ڈیز چلے. اور ای سی ڈیز کے ذریعے سے ابھی جو آپ کے جو انڈیکیٹرز میں آتے ہیں, ای سی ڈیز سے ہی بچے اس کو سیکھنا شروع کر دیتے ہیں. تو آگے جا کر ان کے لیے پڑھنا یا لکھنا یا آپ کی نومیریکلس کو بھی اگر وہ جمع تفریق جو کرنا ہے وہ کر سکتے ہیں. تو اس میں آپ کو مینلی یہ بتانا چاہتا ہوں کہ اگر اف یور گورنمنٹ از کمیٹڈ ٹو پرفارم, یا آپ کی جو کنسرن منسٹر ہے یا اس کی جو اسٹاف ہے اگر وہ کمیٹڈ ہیں تو کوئی وجہ نہیں ہے چینج نہ آنے کی. ہم انٹلیکچوئل لیول پہ بات کرتے ہیں لیکن ہم گراؤنڈ لیول پر جا کر ہم نہیں کرتے ہیں. میں آپ کو اپنے ایک مثال دیتا ہوں. میں نے جیسے ہی میں نے اس پورٹ فولیو کو سنبھالا, میں نے اسپائڈر مین کے ساتھ اپنے تصویر کو میں نے فیس بک پہ ڈال دیا مختلف اس پہ. تو مجھ پر بڑی تنقید ہوئی. بعد میں لوگوں کی سمجھ میں آیا جب میں نے سکولوں میں چھاپہ مارنا شروع کیا, بغیر اطلاع کے سکولوں میں گھسنا شروع کیا, پوچھنا شروع کیا, پھر ان کی سمجھ میں آیا کہ بندہ میسیج کیا دینا چاہتا ہے. تو میری گزارش یہ ہے کہ اگر ہم کمیٹڈ ہو, اور یہ ارسپیکٹو آف آپ پارٹی یا کسی چیز کو, ہر چیز کو چھوڑ کے اس کو قومی ایجنڈا بنا لیں, نیشنل کاز بنا لیں گے, اور پھر آپ آگے بڑھیں گے تو کوئی وجہ نہیں ہے کہ آپ کے ایجوکیشن بہتر نہ ہو. اور یہ کوشش کریں کہ آپ نئے ٹیکنالوجی جو زیادہ سوفسٹیکیٹڈ نہ ہو, وہ بھی ایک پرابلم آتے ہیں. آپ سمپل آپ ٹیکنالوجیز کو, آئی ٹی ریلیٹڈ ٹیکنالوجیز کو بھی اسکولوں میں انٹروڈیوس کریں گے تو بچوں میں خود بخود بچوں میں وہ کریسٹی پیدا ہوگا. اور ان کی کریسٹی اور والدین ٹیچر کے کمٹمنٹ, یہ دونوں اگر جڑ جائیں گے تو آپ کے ملک کی ایجوکیشن بہتر ہو جائے گی. تھینک یو.
بہت شکریہ جی. Everybody does. Everybody, we're all in it together.
Thank you so much, Fahad. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم everyone. First of all, Bela, congratulations. مجھے یاد ہے جب آپ نے اپنی اثر کی رپورٹ شروع کی تھی 2011 میں, and this is the 9th report, and it's extremely important in the discourse of education. جیسے کہ الف اعلان, میں بہت یاد کرتی ہوں الف اعلان کو. I just wish that we could have الف اعلان back into the discourse کہ جب education کے around we would all come together, all stakeholders would come together and analyze different aspects of education. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing is that, in the last few years, 2 years especially, since I have been in the parliament, I'm not seeing a serious discourse on education. And no serious questions in the parliament as well, which is very, very concerning. So it remains as a very critical issue. And the timing for your launching your report, Bela, is very critical as well, because we are going into the discussions of a very, very challenging budget 2021 with grave financial constraints. So what are we going to do on education in the larger picture? So to me, when I look at the education sector at large, I don't see harmony. And looking at the grave situation of population increase in the country, if you look at from now to 10 years, I hope that some of our Bela and we could do some kind of a forecasting of where we are going to be in education in the next 10 years as our population grows and we are not able to rationalize according to our growing population. That's very, very essential. Bela, you mentioned urban sector planning. Important. There is no such planning, as Bela said. Also, I'd like to reiterate that Islamabad Capital Territory has been considered as a model city of education. Been working here on education for the last 20 years, and I think just 5 schools have been added to the 425, making it 530, 535, and not much. So if that's happening in Islamabad Capital Territory, just imagine how it's happening in the other districts and the other provinces of Pakistan. So budget, I've already mentioned. This is an important time. We don't wish to, and we will make a lot of noise if there is going to be any kind of a budget cut this year. Or maybe, we need to review the PSDP, Jazib Saab, that how well the education projects have sustained in the next cycle. These are very important things, and we generally, the public, we in the education sector, we are looking at quality of schooling and others, but we don't see the shrinking space, the shrinking budgetary space, the shrinking debate, the shrinking thinking, the shrinking planning. And I think that before we get into a bigger crisis of schooling and education in Pakistan, we need to stop here and start to analyze and to plan effectively for Pakistan, all children of Pakistan. Also, Bela, in your report, we always make it in like a black and white discrimination between public and private. So public sector, yes, but private sector has so much going on, and madrasa especially. We need to inch towards the madrasas and demystify what's going on in there. I'll just give you an example of what happened to a boy who wanted to study, whose father was totally illiterate. A boy from Kohistan, age 10, was enrolled in the madrasa in Mansera, and after 3 months, the father got to know through media reports that the child has been raped 100 times by the owner of the madrasa. So we are facing that challenge also, the security challenge, the safety challenge, the child protection challenge, which needs to come into the discourse as well. My background has been in education. As I came into the parliament, I realized that yes, and specifically my passion, early childhood education, that's very important, and education is a basic right, but we have to look at children holistically. So when I'm looking at the report, the education debate, education being one of the most important child rights, so I've started working on the child rights issue portfolio in the parliament. So, also when to look at the child in a holistic manner, I think, and to break intergenerational poverty. Poverty is increasing in Pakistan, and I don't need to get into the debate of, inflation is authorized. It's hurting. It's hurting now. खाने की दो वक्त की रोटी की मुश्किल आ गई है और बच्चे अब एक ये भी होगा कि अगर 5 बच्चे हैं तो if there are 5 kids then send 3 kids to school and keep 2 kids at home. We may be going into those kinds of decisions very as inflation grows, as our bills are becoming huge for us. So some of the issues that we should be looking at when we are looking at education, especially for those who are out of school and are marginalized and poorest of the poor, is nutrition, safety and security, early childhood education. The government has totally absolved itself, saying that from 6 to 16 they are responsible and not for earlier years, and that has led to a lot of confusion. And there is no budget for this, and the government needs to get into some sort of a public-private partnership to ensure that kids have the option of coming into government schools on early childhood arrangements. Corporal punishment. My bill on corporal punishment for Islamabad Capital Territory is almost ready to be passed. It's done the rounds, but I'm amazed that it's taken such a long time for us to pass a legislation on corporal punishment. It starts with one slap and then it goes to mega abuse for children, and it's happening in a lot of schools, madrasas, etc., etc. We need to look at that as well. We need to revisit 25. In the parliament, we are told that, and I believe that too, like we all feel that, we need...
Are still way behind their own age-related expectations. I think, second of all, and others before me have said this more eloquently, girls are lagging behind. And while we understand that an investment in girls' education is not just because every girl has the right to the same education as a boy, we also know that it stops the intergenerational transmission of poverty. Girls who have educated children, those children are likely to go to school, they're likely to be more healthy, and it's investment in the future of the country. So it's not just about ensuring that girls get their own rights, but it's also investing in the future of Pakistan. And so the fact that there continues to be a consistent and troubling trend in that girls continue to lag behind the performance of boys in all subjects tested, as well as the fact that that gap seems to have widened, continues to provide, I think, a cause for concern for all of us in this room. As has been mentioned, we're very active in the education space in Pakistan. Since 2011, our support has helped over 10 million children into primary school, of which 4.7 are girls, and that's 4.7 million, and over 5.8 million children into secondary school, of which 2.7 million are girls. But we're also running the Girls' Education Challenge, Leave No One Behind programme, and I think we've recognised today the importance of inclusive education, of ensuring that everybody has access to school, particularly those who are most marginalised, including the disabled. And we're also supporting 2 international NGOs to provide...
The starting point is that it should be our sense of dissatisfaction. If we have dissatisfaction, more than what has been achieved. So while it's good to keep a positive outlook, and I try to not acceptable. We have to change. This is a very committed audience, so I need not talk about education, the systems, the importance. This survey, this report, is very important. And the reason why I say this is because as a practitioner, I was questioned on the basis of this report. We were challenged that this report says that you have not done enough. And that is the kind of pressure which really helps the system refocus itself on this very, very important task of educating our children, our citizens, and improving the country. So this report must receive our full appreciation, and those who have been involved in it, those who have sponsored it, DFID, UNICEF, and all other colleagues and institutions. I would like to thank them very much from the core of our heart and express our sense of gratitude for doing this consistently so that we can assess ourselves against some benchmarks. Since I've been in the practice, so I can just mention a couple of things that were visible on the ground. And a lot is said about the resources, as was mentioned. The two have to walk together. I completely agree with Musharraf, resources and management. And we've been short on both. So resources and management includes the entire resource allocation, how you optimize in a scarce environment. That is extremely important. But what is education about? It's fundamentally a physical infrastructure in the form of a school, which should be comfortable, which should have the basic facilities. And then you have teachers, and teachers who are trained to teach. They're not just graduates who have been hired to teach, but they are people who have those skills which teachers require. And the children will naturally accept their leadership and accept that these are our mentors and guides. And then after teacher, you need a good curriculum. Curriculum is extremely important because that is where the learning is. That is where the spirit of inquiry is, asking the right questions, if not knowing the right answers. And finally, the assessment. All of this constitutes the education cycle, if I may call it one. When we look at our budgets, a lot of the monies have gone in building schools, which is necessary. And I noticed that the facilities have improved, and they have to improve further on also. But not enough focus on teacher training, and not enough focus on curriculum and assessment. So I just like to flag these other 2 or 3 very important areas so that we look at them, and there is information on learning outcomes, and that should make us worried on how do we make the environment better for learning. We had some interesting, shall I call, experiments while working in Punjab. It was very interesting to see that we had 3 streams of education, of elementary education being run through public financing. The first one was government schools being run by the government. The second one were government schools which had been outsourced to either NGOs or individuals, and the government was paying for the expenses, but these were being managed privately. And the third stream was what we used to work through the Punjab Education Foundation, where monies were being given to private schools for children who were enrolled there, largely from the underprivileged section. And we saw some startling results. When some of these schools were outsourced to the private sector, they started faring better in terms of assessment. And those were very telling experiences, because with the same teachers, with better management, we saw improvements. In some cases, when we improved the public schools, we saw children moving out of the private schools and coming to the public schools. I'm saying this, that there has to be a number of ways of doing this. There is no one single mode. And the challenge is so huge that it cannot be achieved through mere provision of schools and teachers by the public sector. This has to become a national campaign. Everybody has to get involved. Civil society has been doing its work, but I think the government has not engaged the civil society enough.
Be on top of things also, and to think out of the box of what can be the role of the federal government.